So hello everyone. Welcome to Divine Rebel. It's almost 2:30 in the morning, and I was looking through my photos in my phone for a new wallpaper, and I found one. I found my favorite picture of my son. That's officially my new wallpaper. But in doing that, I came across pictures of the mythic tarot that I took that a friend of mine had. I didn't have the deck, and to find that particular deck with the cards illustrated by Trisha Newell, hey, that particular deck costs hundreds of dollars. It's not in make anymore. So, of course, I took pictures of all the cards because I wanted to study the images. And as I'm going through my pictures, I come across one, and on it is the star card. The star card in this particular deck is a picture of a woman in her birthday suit, kneeling on the ground, very much at peace, in front of the Ark of the Covenant, which is open in front of her. And from the Ark, hello, and from the Ark is pouring all of these insects, dragonflies, moths, spiders, and bees. And with all of this pouring out and immediately in front of her, a higher self, a version of her in full radiant light, is also emerging from the ark. And her higher self, because the image of the woman who's kneeling in front of the covenant is the same woman that is in this radiant star energy. The star is a 6-pointed star of light, and she has a different perspective. Hey. And I thought to myself, because the star card in tarot is the healer. We always say healed people heal people, right? Just like hurt people, healed people heal people. And she's sitting there in this piece, despite the swarm coming out, and the symbolism in the card is unreal. And I'm going to break it down. The dragonflies, the spiders, and worms. There's worms flying out of this box. There's worms and bees and moths and dragonflies all flying out of this box. And yet she's focused only on her higher, radiant, balanced, right? The 6-pointed star is the masculine and the feminine in union, right? She's focusing only on her light and her balanced self, despite everything else. Now, the dragonflies, right, as we get into the symbolism of this card, because I had typed out a whole post, I was going to type it all out. I nearly had it finished, and at 2:22, Facebook crashed on me and closed. And I lost the entire post that I had been typing for like 40 minutes. And I thought, okay, Spirit, you want me to go live? All right, then. So the symbolism, right? Because the woman sitting there in front of the Ark of the Covenant, which the Ark of the Covenant in and of itself is a huge symbol. The woman sitting there in her birthday suit represents intuition, receptivity, and being vulnerable with the truth of the self, the reality of the self, right? The dragonflies, if you've ever heard about the myth of dragonflies, they used to be these great grand dragons who ended up cursed because they lost what made them powerful. They resorted to greed. They were arrogant, right? The dragons became arrogant, and so they were reduced to mere dragonflies, a fraction of what they once were, unrecognizable as what they once were. And yet they still tell this tale of, I'm a grand dragon. I have all this wisdom and I have all this honor and I have, all of this blah, 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 blah. Dragonflies being trying to distract, right, the woman on the card, represent people who talk about a better version of themselves, who they used to be, but they are nothing like they used to be. They don't act with the same wisdom they used to carry. They don't hold the same respect or regard or reverence that they used to. They don't hold the same honor. They are just a fraction. Their behavior, actions now, they are a fraction of the more honorable, wise, respected version they used to be. They are no longer that version. The dragonflies represent people who expect you to respect them for their old version when their current version is nothing like who they used to be. We deal with these people in our reality. They represent illusion, right? This is who I am when it's who I used to be. People, dragonfly energy. The moths represent symbolically in this card as a part of the swarm, right? The distraction, represent people who come off like they have it all together, like they're butterflies. But they're not butterflies. They camouflage. Think about moths. They camouflage in the dark night. They camouflage in the dark night. They don't want you to see that they are not a butterfly. But they like to think they are. They kind of look like butterflies. Moths represent, in this card, people that camouflage themselves as healed and good for you, transformative for you, and yet they are just as lost in the dark night as you. They are just as lost. And they get closer to you and closer to you and closer to you until your light gets so bright, it literally burns them because they took that you let them that close for granted. They represent the people who pretend they have it all together, that they have gone through all of this life experience, they have all of the answers, and yet they are just as lost as you. We end up burning these people away because they can't exist, right? This illusion, camouflage energy. The spiders coming out of the swarm are the story weavers, those who manipulate and fabricate and tell you this wonderful story that you want to believe just to trap you and suck your life force energy. People that we encounter in our lives, this is what the spiders represent in this particular card. They represent people who will tell a tall tale and have you believe anything just to take advantage of your energy and drain you. They're energy vampires. The bees in this card symbolize those that promise sweetness and yet sting. And the lessons we get from them are great. However, it's always this unfounded fear. We're always terrified of bees, right? Terrified of bees. And yet, for the most part, unless you're highly allergic, if one stings you, it's just a sting. It's not going to kill you. And yet, we have this deathly fear of bees because they promise all these sweet things just to sting. This is what's coming out in the swarm. This is what's trying to distract you from your higher self. The worms represent the lowest of creatures, The lowest of creatures who you wouldn't even notice unless you had your head buried in the sand. Unless you had your head in the dirt. Reminds you of the ostrich who's afraid and sticks their head in the dirt. We don't want to face the reality, and so we've come across the worms, the lowest of the low, who would wiggle their way into your ears and ruin whatever fucking sense you have left inside your head that would tell you to get your head out of the dirt and face your reality. They tell you it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid until there is nothing left. The worms. It's like the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the ants play pinochle on your scalp. You guys ever hear that song? As a kid, the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. You might as well be dead. You're not facing your reality. You're not actually living life. You're afraid to live life. That's when you notice the worms. That's when the worms come into your reality. All these different insects pouring from the Ark of the Covenant symbolically represent all these different types of people that we can interact with in our life. People that make us respect them, demand respect, when they are not respect worthy, not anymore. Maybe they used to be, but they're not anymore. But they demand respect. How do you heal from those people? The moths who follow you around, letting you know that, they're a beautiful person, blah, 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 and yet they would get so close to you that they would smother you or take you for granted, take your light for granted, lie, I'm a butterfly. Bitch, no, you ain't. You're just as lost as I am. You do not have all the answers. I'm following you around, right? Like a moth to a flame. You become the moth, following them around until you get burned. All of these different people, how do you heal from that? How do you heal from people that you meet when you're at the lowest of your lows and they get inside your head? And they make you believe that you're right to have your head in the dirt, to stay with them down there. Because they're lonely as shit. No one notices or gives a fuck about the worms because they're the lowest of low. They're the bottom of the fucking energy chain. No one wants to get stung. Everybody's afraid. It looks too good to be true. All of these people, manipulators, how do we heal? The Star card tells you how to heal. You listen to your intuition. Be open to receive and be vulnerable with your truth. Do not doubt it. Do not deny it. The vulnerable truth of your intuition and what it's telling you, and your ability to receive it fully, that your peace would not be taken away. The Star card in this particular deck tells you to focus on your higher self, your balanced self, your radiant self. When you look in the mirror, do you love the person that you are? Because you're not a dragonfly demanding respect when you don't actually deserve it. Don't you love who you are? You are not a dragonfly person. You are not a moth parading around like you're fucking healed if you're not. Follow me. I have all the answers. You know better. He who thinks he knows it all knows nothing at all. You're not a bee. You're not promising sweet nothings. And maybe threatening people, like, yes, you can have all the sweetness, but don't cross me, I'll sting you. People that hold the sweetness over your head. You're not that person. Can't you love the person looking in the mirror when you're not like that? Can you love the fact that you're not a spider? When you look in the mirror at the person looking back at you, you're not a manipulative son of a bitch. Taking advantage of people, tricking them, trapping them, sucking all all that they have for what they're worth. And you're not a fucking worm. When you look in the mirror, can you not love who you are? A literal mirror. How can you look at the person in that mirror and not love who you are when you're not a dragonfly, and you're not a moth, and you're not a spider, and you're not a bee, and you're not a worm? You remember who you are. You love who you are. You don't let yourself be distracted or hurt by the rest. You listen to your intuition. Your higher self will tell you not to worry about them. The universe will take care of it. They have their place in the world. Your job is to focus on what is beyond them, the radiant self. Because that whole swarm was blowing up in front of the woman in front of the covenant. And the higher self was immediately behind it. You have to look past all the bullshit people who have their place in the world, helping people see beyond the distraction to their higher self. The star card is the healer. It is the higher perspective. It is the ripple. Traditional tarot, if you look at Rider-Waite with the woman, the birthday suit woman pouring water onto the ground and into the river, she's creating ripples. The star card represents the healer who is the ripple. It is the card that represents healed people healing people. The number 17, which the star card is, number 17 of the major arcana. The 1 is the initiation into the 7, which is divine miracle. If you can accept not being distracted by all the bullshit that has their place in the world, and you can focus on your balanced, most radiant self instead, that's how you initiate divine miracle into the 8, which is the abundance of the infinite soul and spirit. The infinite soul. Think about that. The archetypal energy of the star card literally tells you how to heal. It's not about focusing on the bullshit. It's not about being afraid of the bullshit. It's not about being worried about the bullshit. It's not about being hurt by the bullshit. It's not about focusing on the bullshit at all. It's about focusing on your best self and making sure that when you look in the mirror, you love who you are. Everybody else has to look in the mirror and love who they are or hate who they are. The star card reminds you to choose who you are in the mirror. Are you pouring love, trust, that you are trustworthy? Are you pouring out joy, that you consider what you create for other people and yourself? Are you confident in what makes you happy? Being around whoever makes you happy. Being in whatever environment that makes you happy. Are you confident? Do you trust yourself to take action and step away from what would otherwise be distracting? Sorry, not my monkeys, not my circus. Hello, hello. Can you love who you are? Do you have regrets for being a trustworthy, considerate, confident, courageous person who knows themselves, who trusts themselves? Do you hold regrets? Fuck no. Can you speak and create your truth? Can you leave your mark on the world? Can you ripple? Does that person looking back at you in the mirror not manifest some beautiful stuff when you're not distracted by the bullshit? Do Do you feel eternal gratitude for the beautiful people in your life? Do you hold eternal gratitude for the ability to decide that bullshit's not going to bother me? That person's not going to bother me. I'm going to look past them as if they don't even exist. They have their place in the world, bless them. But they don't have a place in mine. My focus is here, not on them. My focus is on the person that I look at in the mirror. The person I have to go to bed being at night and feeling good about. You don't ever regret loving. You might regret being distracted by the dragonflies and the spiders and the moths and the worms and the bees pouring from the ark. That's life. You might regret dealing with those energies and being distracted, taken for granted by them, being fooled by them, being lured by them. But you don't actually regret loving. You don't actually regret considering someone. It felt good to do those things. You don't regret who you are. That's what matters. What matters is that you continue to love and you continue to consider and you continue to be balanced and radiant and beautiful and focused on yourself and your ripple. Because if you're focused on their bullshit, you ain't rippling nothing but their bullshit on people. And then it's not worth it. Because then you just become just like them. You just become a part of the swarm. Why would you be a dragonfly when you can be a radiant, glowing, angelic sunlight of a self when you could be a star? Why? Who would want to settle for being a moth when you could be a fucking star? You're not a phony. You're not a fake. You're fucking real. You're real. The person that looks back in the mirror at you is real. That is a real soul looking back at you. Legit. A beautiful soul that looks back at you in that mirror. Don't ever forget when you look in the mirror how beautiful you are and how powerful you are, that you ripple that healing when you remember who you are. You are not them. You pray for them. You pray for them. Because they've been distracted by the swarm for so long that they became it. And that's sad. They forgot how to love the person looking back at them in the mirror. You pray for them. That's the kind of person you are. You don't judge them. You don't hate on them. But you don't pay them any fucking mind or focus short of a prayer. Because that's who you are. And that person looking back at you in the mirror is someone you could be proud of. Because you're not them. Don't forget it. Don't forget how fucking beautiful you are. If you caught this message, my ass up at probably 3 o'clock in the morning right now, guided to give this message, because the universe, my angels would have it at 2:22. Facebook would crash and say go live instead. Remember who you are. It is the higher perspective. It is the higher perspective. I appreciate all of you who tune in and give a shit about yourself and the person that looks back at you in the mirror. You are fucking awesome. You are some powerful shit. You are some powerful, beautiful shit. Thank you for being present. Thank you for sharing this moment with me in divine time, now or later. Thank you. I hope it was worth it to hear it. I'm going to go and get ready for bed now. Again. Again. I don't know. I might just stay up. I might just let this live be that. And I don't know. Maybe I'll come back on and just shoot shit and pull cards. Why not? I'm awake. I'm awake as fuck right now. All right, let me do that. I'm going to finish this live. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to shoot shit with you guys and pull some cards. All right? See you in a sec.